Tennessee visits Alabama on Saturday with first place in the SEC on the line. How many points is Dalton Knecht about to drop on Alabama's woeful defense?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily year-round national college hoop show. We're your host. This is the man, Andy Patton. I'm Isaac Shade, and we want to thank you so much for joining us to get your college basketball content every single day. Seriously, thanks for making us your first listen or watch. Special shout out to you everydayers out there. This episode is brought to you by our brand new sponsor, Nissan. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. Andy, I feel like a broken record, but literally every Friday it's true. It is a loaded weekend of college basketball, the next to the last Saturday of the regular season for a lot of conferences. And for other conferences, it is the last Saturday of the conference regular season. So lots and lots on the line. But Andy, we got to start where 10 of the AP Top 25 are playing each other this weekend. That's right. We have 5 ranked games, all of which are taking place on Saturday. Andy, we're actually going to start in the SEC, where right now we have this logjam, a rubberneck, a bottleneck. What other fun words can we use there? Let me break out my thesaurus, where there are 6 teams within 2 games of each other. Tennessee and Alabama tied at 12-3, South Carolina 11-4, and then Florida, Kentucky, Auburn all at 10-5. Here's the fun news. 4 of those 6 teams are in action against each other. Tennessee at Alabama, and then Florida visiting South Carolina, and then Kentucky and Auburn are playing other teams. So, Andy, let's start at the top because Tennessee, Alabama is a battle for first place. This is 8 o'clock Eastern on Saturday night on, of course, ESPN. Andy, last week, we got a matchup of an elite defense, Houston, against an elite offense, Baylor. I think we got a similar situation on Saturday. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a really fun game between 2 really good teams, 2 kind of differently constructed teams. And I think the biggest key in this game, 100%, is going to be how Alabama defends, because that is the weakest link in this game, unquestionably. Bama has the number 1 offensive efficiency at Ken Palm.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty darn good. Tennessee has the number 3 defensive efficiency.
Oh, that's not as good. That's pretty weak, Andy. Number 3, that
number 1 versus number 3 offense versus defense. Really fun matchup there. However, Tennessee is 17th in offensive efficiency. Still clearly very good. Much better than Alabama is defensively, where they come in at 99th as we're recording this right now. 17th offense versus 99th defense compared to 1 versus 3 on the other side. So this game is going to come down to how Alabama defends Tennessee, and in particular, how they defend the almost certain SEC player of the year in Dalton Knecht, who just dropped 39 points a few days ago, has had multiple games over 30 points, has had multiple games over 35 points this season. He has been an absolute menace offensively for Tennessee. He is the perfect fit in a system for Rick Barnes that needed a guy who could go get a bucket. He can do that. Alabama does not play good defensively. That is going to be where this game comes down to. If Dalton Knecht, he doesn't need to score 35. He doesn't need to score 40 for them to win. It might happen anyway, because that's the kind of scorer that he is, particularly against this team. But if he goes out, has an efficient night, flummoxes Alabama's defense, puts them in positions where they're struggling, they're trying to catch up defensively.
So and just as per usual, basically.
Right, exactly. And Tennessee plays efficient basketball and, of course, does what they do on defense. It's still going to be hard. It's hard to slow down Alabama, even if you're the 3rd-ranked defense in the country. But all they have to do is score more points than Alabama. And Alabama's going to score a lot of them, but they're going to give up a lot of them too. And I think this is going to be an incredibly fun game.
So, Andy, a lot of people are probably listening to or watching this and thinking, okay, that's great offensive and defensive efficiency. Put it in like hard stats for me. Okay, fine. I got you. Alabama is number 1 in the SEC in scoring, 91.5. Tennessee is number 5 in the SEC in scoring, 80.7. But Andy, when we go to the flip side of it, Tennessee is number 2 in points allowed at just 67.2. Alabama is dead last in the SEC, allowing 79.2 points a game.
Wow.
That's where it meets. So when you put those averages together, remember, Alabama averages 79.2 points allowed per game. Tennessee scores an average of 80.7 points a game. That is a very close thing. So we're going to see that at play. Andy, we also mentioned another top SEC matchup. Florida, number 24 in the AP poll, goes to South Carolina, number 18, noon on ESPN. And as a reminder, right now, South Carolina is 1 game ahead of the Gators in the SEC standings. So a critical game for Todd Golden's team. Andy, I'd like to look at and make sure we spend time on the other 3 ranked matchups on Saturday. So let me just quickly give them to you, and then Andy, we can look at each one at least a little bit here. Number 7, Kansas at number 15, Baylor, back-to-back Saturdays with high-level games for the Bears. This game is at 1 Eastern on ABC. Number 5, Marquette at number 12, Creighton. I'm very excited about this one, 2:30 on Fox. And then 23, Gonzaga at 17, St. Mary's. That's 10 o'clock Eastern on ESPN.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this Kansas-Baylor game. Kansas just lost to BYU, and they're in a position where they've struggled on the road. They've struggled on the road this year. They also lost to BYU at home. So not only have they been struggling on the road, they lose this home game that's, kind of a shocking result for them. No discredit to BYU. They're a very good team, but wasn't expecting that to be the team to take down Kansas at Fog Allen this year. And now Kansas has to regroup from that and go on the road and play at Baylor in a really raucous environment in a new arena. And they have to figure out a way to get a W here. And I think it's going to be it's a tough matchup for Kansas. And Baylor, they're looking to stay, in the climb here in the Big 12 standings. They're 3rd right now. They're 2 games back of Iowa State. Both these teams are kind of in spots we didn't expect them to be, behind Houston, behind Iowa State, tied for 3rd right now. This is a huge battle. I'm leaning the Bears because they're at home, because I just think that the guard play is so dynamic, and the way that Yves Missy has been playing in particular as of late, I think can do more to neutralize Hunter Dickinson than most people can do. Not that it's going to be an easy task by any stretch, but I like the Bears at home. Having said that, Kansas coming off this loss, Bill Self and that squad, they're going to get themselves as ready as possible because they do not want to lose again. I think this is going to be a really fun one.
Yeah, we'll see if Kevin McCullough is available for this game, Andy. That's obviously a key storyline, but I'm with you. I think Yves Missy might be the X factor in this game. How can he mitigate Hunter Dickinson? By the way, Ken Palm favors the Bears by 5 in this one. Wow. They just lost at home, remember, in overtime last week to Houston, so they're going to be looking for that. In the Big East game that we mentioned there, Marquette at Creighton. Creighton right now is a game and a half back of Marquette for 2nd, but they're only a half game ahead of Seton Hall. So really need this win to stay in that top 3, although Seton Hall has to go to UConn on Sunday, so I think they'll be okay. But really curious to see what happens with this matchup. Can Mason Miller score any points to help out the rest of the, we're just looking at all of those kind of storylines. Will Tyler Kolek fail any classes between now and then? No, I'm just kidding. And so it's going to be an epic matchup. Any of these top 3 Big East teams, when they get together, man, I'm always excited about it. But Andy, the other ranked game we have, again, is Gonzaga at St. Mary's. And Andy, we got a note here as we record on Thursday. We're recording before both of these teams play on Thursday night. Gonzaga is at San Francisco, which is a really intriguing game.
They're sort of at San Francisco.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's at the Chase Center. And then St. Mary's is at Pepperdine. We expect St. Mary's to win. So with that said, that is our jinx of the week, Andy. Yes. St. Mary's is guaranteed to win at Pepperdine. Folks, as a reminder, if you're not with us all the time, we have each Friday show. We record earlier on Thursday, and we put out a jinx of the week, and we've jinxed a team 4 out of the last 5 weeks. So I apologize to all you Gales fans out there. But Andy, as we look at both these teams, I think if people haven't been tuned in and you're just now joining college basketball as we get into, because today is March 1st, Andy, let's go.
Happy March 1st.
Happy March, baby. It's going time. We've seen both of these teams this season not live up to preseason expectations at various points, but these are not those teams. Andy, both these teams, as we record, are top 21 in the net, top 22 at Ken Palm, and top 20 at Corvick. At Corvick? Who is that? Kyle Corvick. Kyle Corvick at Torvik, excuse me. Don't let those earlier disappointments cloud your judgment of what both of these teams are right now. St. Mary's brings the nation's longest winning streak into this game, assuming they win at Pepperdine again. It'll be 16. Even if that happens, do not assume that this game is meaningless. Andy, why is that?
Because Gonzaga's on the bubble, and this is a spot they haven't been since ever. I mean, they've been in the bubble conversation for a while, but they haven't missed the NCAA tournament since 1998. This is an incredibly big streak right now, and Gonzaga is fighting for a top 2 seed in the WCC tournament. They're fighting for a quad 1 wins that they desperately need. Like, their resume right now is a little spotty. And a win over St. Mary's, not only is it a rivalry game, and it's a road win in Moraga, which is always just something that Gonzaga fans are striving for because it's that rivalry, but it's also a huge game in terms of boosting their resume and putting themselves in a position where if they don't win in Vegas, if they do not win the WCC championship, they're still going to be in the field of 68. That is what matters to Mark Few. That is what matters to Gonzaga. And that's why this game, St. Mary's is pretty safe. They're pretty safe.
Absolutely.
Gonzaga's not. And so this game's going to matter a lot to them in terms of securing a victory here and putting themselves in a spot where if they beat St. Mary's, they're in, I think, guaranteed, regardless of what happens in the WCC tournament.
Agreed.
So getting that win is going to make you feel a lot calmer for the next 2 weeks if you're a Gonzaga fan.
Yes, we'll see what happens with all of that, Andy. It is certainly a weird place for the Bulldogs, and I cannot wait for this game to kind of cap off Saturday night.
Well, Isaac, we have 5 ranked teams playing on ranked opponents, but we also have another 5 ranked teams who are going on the road this weekend. A few of them look like they very much could be on upset watch. We're going to talk about who might fall this weekend. But first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further? Ever wonder what adventure could be like around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. First, there's the 2024 Nissan Rogue. It is the perfect car for city drives and great escapes. And if you need something, call on the class exclusive built-in Google Assistant. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and the Google Play Store are built right in to the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Or how about the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder? It has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and an advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing capacity, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, Isaac, one of the big storylines of the season that's coming to a close as we're getting near the end of the regular season has been ranked teams going into true road games and losing. Historically, ranked teams have gone and played unranked opponents on the road and won like 70+% of the time. This year, it has been much, much closer to 50%. And we have 5 of these games coming up this weekend, 1 of them on Friday, 4 of them on Saturday, all really exciting matchups, 2 in the Big 12, a couple mid-major ones to get to as well. First, on Friday, we got number 21 Dayton. They're going on the road to take on Loyola Chicago at 9 Eastern time Friday on ESPN2. FanDuel does favor Dayton in that one by only by 1.5 points. I'm going to read the other games on Saturday, Isaac, and we can kind of go where we want to go with these games. We got in the Big Ten, Illinois, number 13 on the road at Wisconsin. That is a tough game. Yeah. An unranked Wisconsin team, but they are dangerous, even if they have not been playing all that well as of late. That game is at 1 Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. And then we got in the Big 12, number 8, Iowa State at Central Florida, 4 Eastern time on the Big 12 Network / ESPN Plus. And then again, sticking in the Big 12, Houston, the number 1 team in the country. They go on the road to take on Porter Moser and the Sooners, 8 Eastern time on ESPN2. And then we also have South Florida in the AAC, number 25 at Charlotte at 4 Eastern on ESPN Plus. Charlotte tied with FAU for second in that conference. So that's a tough matchup for the Bulls as well. Isaac, what stands out to you about these games?
Honestly, there's a lot. There's something about each of these games that's really intriguing to me. I want to start though with that Big Ten game, Illinois at Wisconsin. Andy, I mean, what was it like? We just started March. When we started February, we were talking about Wisconsin as a potential 1 seed.
Yeah,
like what on earth? And here we are. They're not ranked. They've lost 6 out of 8. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's bonkers to think about, Andy, how a team can just flip and change like that. Before this losing streak, Wisconsin was 16-4, 8-1 in Big Ten. Now they find themselves at 18-10 overall, 10-7 in Big Ten play. How can Wisconsin handle things in the Kohl Center? Can they take this Illinois team coming in that is kind of the opposite? They're 21-7 overall, 12-5 in Big Ten play. Can they frustrate Terrence Shannon? Can they, just what can they do with Marcus Domask? I'm really curious to see, can this Wisconsin team make like one last stand here towards the end of the regular season? Because then here's the problem. If they lose this game, they get to host Rutgers on Thursday. They should win that game. But then to wrap the regular season, Wisconsin has to go to Purdue. They're not winning that basketball game, Andy. I'm just going to tell you. And hopefully that doesn't show up on Freezing Takes Exposed. But you know what I mean? It's just like you got to try to get this Illinois game, or you're really, really looking in a bad way heading into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, 100%. And Illinois just coming off this game where they drop 105 points, beat Minnesota, this insane basketball game where Minnesota put together one of the most prolific offensive performances in college basketball history, quite honestly, especially in a losing effort. So for Illinois, like that offensive output, that ability, Minnesota's not as good of a defensive team as Wisconsin, but if Illinois is shooting that well, if they're that productive offensively, this is going to be a really tough one for the Badgers. I think they're more than capable of winning this game. I mean, again, like you said, a month ago, we were talking about this team as a 1 seed. Of course, they should be able to beat a team like Illinois, but Illinois has got a lot of momentum right now, and I think this is going to be a really fascinating game. But the other one that really stands out to me is whenever the number 1 team in the country is playing. You always got to be paying attention to that one, and certainly Houston will be the favorites here at Oklahoma on Saturday, as they should be. But Oklahoma, they missed a big opportunity at Iowa State on Wednesday. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. This is a big, big game for the Sooners. Like, this is a team that was really hot in the non-conference, has kind of stumbled a bit in Big 12 play. We sort of expected that, but they're in need of some marquee wins. Like, the momentum that they had earlier in the year is long gone. And when you're trying to impress the selection committee to make sure you get, bumped up a seed, or even making sure you're still going to be in the big dance, like, you want to pick up those marquee wins late in the year. This is a great opportunity to start the month of March with a win over the number 1 team in the country. I don't know if Oklahoma can pull it off. It's really, really tough. I mean, if it was easy to beat Houston, a lot more people would have done it by now. Certainly that's not the case, but Houston has lost a few road games early, in particular in the Big 12 season. They've been much better as of late, but I think it's possible that Oklahoma could do something and really shock the world here and pick up a victory, but it's going to require near perfection. It's probably also going to require either a poor shooting night from one of LJ Cryer or Jamal Shed. Frankly, it might be both in order to really get a victory here for Oklahoma, but that's going to be a game that's probably going to be a little bit tighter than certainly Houston fans might want it to be, but I think it's a golden opportunity for Oklahoma to do something to really boost their resume.
Yeah. Well, Andy, let's go to the team. Let's just stay in the Big 12 to the team right behind the Cougars. That's Iowa State, number 8 at Central Florida. Look, this shouldn't be a thing. Like, Iowa State should take care of business here. But look, UCF has beaten Kansas at home. They've beaten Oklahoma at home. They've beaten Texas Tech at home. And they even went to Austin and beat the Longhorns there. So, Andy, clearly this team is capable of winning this basketball game, and the Cyclones are going to have to be ready. And keep in mind, by the way, Houston does not have this thing wrapped up. The Cyclones are only a game back in the Big 12 in terms of like the regular season standings. Iowa State has Central Florida, then BYU at home, and then they're at K-State. Houston is at Oklahoma, at UCF, so that same thing, and then they host Kansas to wrap the regular season. So there's a very real world in which Iowa State could take home the Big 12 championship, but they got to win at UCF on Saturday. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Iowa State closes with 3 straight quad 1 games, at least right now. Kansas State's on the borderline of changing to quad 2, but Iowa State, another reason, like even beyond Big 12 standings, they are in the mix right now. They're kind of they're a 3 seed at Bracket Matrix. I think they're a 3 seed at definitely with Lunardi. But anyway, they're in that mix to move up into 2 seed range. And let's not forget that 4th 1 seed is still technically open. There's not a reason Iowa State, with winning the Big 12, couldn't jump up to there. So just keep your eye on that as well.
Last thing I'll say here on these games, big shout out to Amir Abdur-Rahim, the head coach at South Florida. Yes. He's done such an incredible job. He was the Kennesaw State coach last year, nearly pulled off that upset over Xavier, who was a 3 seed, takes this job at South Florida, a program that has not been historically very good in the AAC, hasn't been good since, I mean, even when they were in the Big East a while back, they weren't all that good, and has taken this team to the spot where a win here clinches the AAC regular season. Not Memphis, not Florida Atlantic, not even North Texas. South Florida is probably going to clinch the AAC title because of the incredible job that Abdur-Rahim has done in his first year as the head coach. Now, this is no disrespect to Charlotte. They might win this game. Charlotte is a very good team as well. They're in that conversation. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Abdur-Rahim. I think he's done a phenomenal job. And when we talk about head coaches at new jobs this season, Will Wade's getting a lot of attention at McNeese, justifiably so. But I think that Abdur-Rahim is a coach who's maybe flown under the radar a little bit, and that was a fantastic hire from the Bulls.
Andy, I in no world thought we'd be talking about South Florida as a potential AAC winner, but congrats.
Or just saying 25 South Florida with a rank next to them. That's not something I thought we'd be doing either.
Honestly, something about Florida teams coming out of the woodwork,
yes,
man.
So.
I love it. Andy, as we said, it is now March, and the bubble is about to go boop for a handful of teams. We got a rooting guide for you for fans of bubble teams, who you should be cheering for. Plus, we'll look at ranked teams at home and what to expect with them. All coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Why? Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets or live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. We talked about that Dayton game. Tonight, Dayton is just a 1.5-point favorite at Loyola Chicago. If you're a believer in Dayron Holmes and the Flyers, it might be an opportunity here for you to get in on that. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go ahead, shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Andy, we are both very excited for this weekend of college basketball. We've talked about the ranked on ranked games, these ranked teams on the road, but we've got an even bigger group of ranked teams at home. And then we want to get to a rooting guide for all you bubble teams out there, and we'll share that with you. So, Andy, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the teams that are ranked in the AP poll at home, and I want you to pick one of those games, and then I'll pick one, and then we'll talk bubbles. Deal? Deal. I didn't even give you an opportunity to answer. That's right. So I'm just going to roll through these. Arkansas at number 16, Kentucky. That's 1:30 Eastern on CBS on Saturday. Oregon at number 6, Arizona, 2:00 Eastern on ESPN. Followed after that, Mississippi State at number 11, Auburn, 4:00 on ESPN2. At the same time, NC State visits number 9, North Carolina, 4:00 ESPN. Virginia goes to number 10, Duke, 6:00 on ESPN. Then we go back to the Pac-12, UCLA at number 19, Wazoo, 7 Eastern on the Pac-12 network. Michigan State at number 2, Purdue, 8:00 on Fox. And then on Sunday, we already mentioned it earlier, but Seton Hall travels to play number 3, UConn, noon Eastern on CBS. Andy, that's a lot. Pick one.
I hate that I'm only picking one of these games. I'll talk about Virginia at Duke. This is a huge test for Virginia. Duke has been a little more susceptible at home at Cameron. Obviously, that loss to Pitt kind of stands out. Virginia has been a team that seems to be either getting blown out massively or winning close games against good teams. So we'll see what Tony Bennett and that team can bring into Cameron, into that Duke game. If Virginia is able to slow Duke down, to play good defensively, if Beekman has a good offensive game, they're absolutely capable of winning this game. Would be good news for North Carolina. Obviously, they got to take care of their business against NC State, but I think this is one of the more intriguing matchups here, especially as an unranked Virginia team, but certainly a team that they may not have a number next to their name, but they're certainly not a team anybody wants to play. I could see it going either way. I could really see Virginia grinding this one out and keeping it close and maybe even pulling off an upset. I could also see it being a situation where Duke's up by 19 or 25 points at halftime and they just never even get closer than that.
Andy, I'm going to take us to the Big Ten, Michigan State at Purdue. Look, the Spartans have lost 2 games in a row, both at home, Iowa and Ohio State. I do not know what the Spartans are doing. But Andy, do you know how you make up for something like that? You go win at Mackey Arena, which is a very tall task, but boy, would that help offset those back-to-back home losses. Now, it seems like Michigan State is in the field, But Andy, you just don't want to start messing around and risking that. The problem is, you talk about, oh, you don't want a 3-game losing streak. Here's the problem. This is the game of those 3 games that you're expected to lose. So the problem comes when you lose games you're supposed to win ahead of games you're supposed to lose. And unfortunately for Tom Izzo's team, that's the scenario and the situation they find themselves in heading to Purdue. So really, really curious to see how they respond. You know why? Because it is March and this is Izzo month. So Andy, I don't know what to expect out of this game, but a massive chance for Michigan State.
Yeah, you're right. It's March. Tom Izzo wins in March. Does that mean he wins before the NCAA tournament? We're about to find out, because you're right. He doesn't want a 3-game losing streak, but that's going to be a tough one to pick up.
Yeah. Well, Andy, we said we're going to give everyone a bubbly viewer guide for this weekend. We're going to kind of take this conference by conference. So, Andy, I'll start with the ACC, where I want to give you 3 games. Wake Forest at Virginia Tech, 5:30 Saturday on the CW. You're cheering for the Hokies. Pittsburgh at Boston College, 6 o'clock ACC Network, cheer for Boston College. And then Clemson at Notre Dame, 7:45 on CW. You might laugh because you think Notre Dame's terrible, but go talk to my friends at Wake Forest and see how they feel. We're cheering for Notre Dame if you're a bubble team.
Got a pair of games in the Big 12 as well. Texas Tech going on the road to Morgantown to take on West Virginia, 6 o'clock on ESPN2. If you are a bubble team, you are rooting for West Virginia to win that one. We also got Kansas State at Cincinnati, 7 o'clock on the Big 12/ESPN Plus. That was a little bit trickier to pin down. I guess we're rooting for Cincinnati in that one. Both those teams kind of feel like they're fringy bubble teams, so it could kind of go either way depending on how the rest of their schedule shakes out.
Andy, 1 Big East game, 2 bubble teams. Yes, it's a double bubble moment.
Double bubble.
Let's go. We love a good double bubble situation. This is Villanova at Providence, noon on Fox. Here's what's interesting. Jerry Palm at CBS has both of these teams in first 4 out. So you're just cheering, like if you're a bubble team, you're really just cheering for a tie, which can't happen obviously because this isn't the NFL, but
maybe you're cheering for one of them to get blown out.
Exactly.
Significantly.
You want one of these teams to get beaten so badly that they just fall far. And so that's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah. Looking at the Big Ten, we got Iowa on the road at Northwestern, 5:30 on the Big Ten Network. Northwestern feels like they're pretty safe in the field right now, so I'd be rooting for them just to make sure Iowa doesn't kind of keep staying in that bubble conversation. And then on Sunday in the Big Ten, Rutgers goes on the road to take on Nebraska, 6:30 on the Big Ten Network. Rooting for Rutgers to pull off an upset on the road. They're not going to be in the big dance, but Nebraska might. And if they lose to Rutgers at home, that's probably going to seriously hurt their NCAA tournament chances.
Andy, Pac-12, I got 2 games for you. Cal at Utah, 9 p.m. Saturday on the Pac-12 Network. Look, here's the deal. Utah already should not be in bubble consideration as far as we're concerned, but Cal can really help put a nail in that coffin. Yep. And then on Sunday, Stanford goes to Colorado, 9 Eastern on FS1. Again, if you're a bubble team, you're cheering for the Cardinal, single L, no S at the end.
SEC's got 2 bubble games. We are rooting for the home teams to win against teams that are going to be considered better than them, but certainly could be susceptible to losses. Here we got Texas A&M on the road at Georgia, 6 o'clock on the SEC Network, rooting for Georgia. That would probably push the Aggies out of that conversation. And then we got Mizzou hosting Ole Miss at 8:30 on the SEC Network as well. Tigers have not picked up a game yet in the SEC, but if they were able to win this one, probably sends Chris Beard's team out of the tournament, barring a big run in the SEC tournament.
Final bubble game we want to mention to you for this weekend. Obviously, there are others out there, but we just wanted to hone in on certain ones. In the Mountain West, New Mexico at Boise State, 8 o'clock Eastern Saturday on CBS Sports Network. Both of these teams are in right now, but New Mexico's position is more tenuous than is Boise State's. So if you're a bubble team, you want to cheer for the Broncos and that blue football field to bring home a dub. Andy, man, I love this time of year. It's March. Break out the bubble. You know, it's just so exciting. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have an electric weekend, sitting down, ignoring everyone you love to watch college basketball. If you're not part of the Locked On College Basketball Discord community, that's where you can come find some community as you ignore your family and watch basketball. The link for that's in the show notes. It's free to join. We'd love to have you. If you're not subscribed to the show on video and audio platforms, please do that. Smash the like button if you're watching on YouTube so we know that you are here. As always, apologies to the lawyer family, especially if Tom Izzo beats up on you on Saturday. As always, go Wildcats, and until Monday, peace.